Good day. Welcome to yet another class, specifically the JAM class, UTME. What's the purpose? For those who have written WAEC or about to write your WAEC and you need this exam to enter the university, it is very much important for us at this point to look at certain topics in English that are likely to come out. It's been a recurrent question or recurrent questions as it may be. So it's important that at this point we look at these questions that always come out in our JAM questions in English language. You would agree with me that English has seemed to pose a little problem to students, but trust me, when you are able to get the right topics that usually come out and you master them accurately, you are able to find your way around the questions when they are presented to you. One thing that is very paramount is that the topics will definitely come out, but the questions will be varying. If you go through the past questions, the UTME past questions, you will agree with me that you see series of topics, and in these topics, the questions are not exactly the same, but it's still the same idea, the same structure. And that is what we want to look at, considering those topics that usually come out and our ability to attempt to approach those questions without fear. Now, first off, we would be looking at comprehension passages. It is no doubt that in English language, any exam whatsoever, the comprehension passage will always be there. So it is in the bid to answer this that you would be tested on your ability to comprehend the passage. That's where the word comprehension comes to play. So you have to understand the passage, what the passage is all about, the theme or the key idea that the comprehension is about. Then you're able to attempt the questions that are posed. It is important at this point that we know that it is relevant that you go through your questions. That's how best you could actually attempt these questions. Run through the questions. There are basically 5 questions, if I'm not mistaken. Run through those 5 questions before going to the passage. When you run through the questions, there is always a possibility for you to retain about 2 to 3 questions out of the 5. And while you're going through the comprehension, or rather the passage, you could identify answers to those questions you've read ahead of time. Nothing stops you from underlining it or keeping it in memory if need be. Then go back to the questions when you must have finished reading the comprehension passage and see how best you can attempt them. Now, I need to make us note this, that in attempting the passage, the comprehension, it is important to note certain keywords that are there. Sometimes words written in italics, all right, have the tendency of questions being asked on them. So once you see these words, what do you have to do? Ask yourself if they are words that the synonyms could be asked, or they are words that may demand the meaning of an expression. It could be an expression given to you, and you would have to give the meaning of that very expression, or a word, and you'll be asked to give the synonym or the antonym as used in the passage. One thing is important: whatever word you want to use to replace the given word in the passage, it is relevant for you to use it in context. Never assume that you know that word prior to that time. As much as you may know a word, it is also important for you to fix it within the context used and see if it gives you the same meaning. Where it's not giving you the same meaning, then that word isn't correct. So that's that for the comprehension. It is important that we'll move swiftly to rhymes. Rhymes. You know, I've been a teacher for quite some time, and over time I've realized that oral English has been, would I say, a Herculean task for students. But trust me, when you're able to identify sounds, when you're able to articulate sounds appropriately, it won't be difficult for you when attempting questions in oral English. Now, looking at rhymes, of all questions under oral English, rhyme seems to be the easiest. Rhymes and emphatic stress seem to be the easiest of all questions that come out in oral English. Now, when we talk about rhymes, what do we actually refer to? I want to believe that so many of us have listened to songs or tried to write a song, and when you're singing your song, you tend to, make certain words end in the same sound. That's what rhyme is, where words end with the same sound. Now, there are certain words that when you look at them, they have the same sound ending being at the end of 2 letters or 3 letters, depending on the nature of the word. And there are certain words that from the beginning of it to the end of it, they sound alike. There are certain homophones in English that from the point of the first letter to the last letter, they sound alike. Example, the word waste and wastes. Waste as in W-A-I-S-T and W-A-S-T-E. These are 2 different words spelled differently. They both have different meanings, but they are pronounced alike. And their pronunciation is from the point of the first letter, which is the W, to the last letter, which is T, and for the other one, which is E, but the E is not pronounced. So in such an example, if a word is given and you have a word like W-A-I-S-T and you have other options of which you're asked to give the word that has the same rhyme at the given word. Remember, we've given the word waste, which is a part of the body, all right? Now, W-A-I-S-T. Now, if I'm to give the rhyme for it, I have the word taste, obviously, which has the same sound towards the end, like waste, taste, wastes, all right? That's option A. Option B, I have pastes, obviously having the same rhyme with taste. Then option C, I have creates. Now you see that we have create from 8. Others had from the point of the second letter, but in this one we have from the point of the third letter for the create. And option D says waste. Without doubt, I am certain that on the first look, the student knows that the right rhyme for W-A-I-S-T is W-A-S-T. Why? Because the first letter started with W and it is sounded. The option D started with W and it is sounded. So that is how rhyme is identified. From the last letter, you keep moving until you get to the first letter. We'll definitely see some of these questions when we run through the past questions. You see where you're asked to identify the word that has the same rhyme as the underlined. The emphasis is on starting from the last letter. You don't start from the first, you start from the last letter, because if you start from the first, you could make a mistake somewhere, because it's possible for you to have the same letter starting the word given, but it's not pronounced that way by the second letter or by the third letter, and the rhyme will just be for the last 2 letters or the last 3 letters. So it's important that you make a move. Don't be so much in a hurry, except it's for a word that you already know. So don't hurry while attempting questions on rhyme, so that if you have 3 questions coming out from rhyme, you should be able to, get all the 3 questions. Apart from rhyme, still on that oral English, questions on consonant sounds will obviously be asked. Now, it is also important for us to note one thing. Sounds are made while letters are written. All right, sounds, what I mean by this is that sounds are used in pronunciation. When you're pronouncing a word, you make use of your sounds. And in English language, under the consonant sounds, we have about 24 consonants. In fact, we have 24 consonant sounds as against 21 consonant letters. All right, so these sounds, you must abreast yourself with the sounds if you must get them correctly in your exam. Now, you must also know one thing, that there are certain sounds that may be inaudible in certain words. The sound B, there are certain words that you will see the letter B that is not sounded, all right? Like the word C-O-M-B. What do you call it? People call it comb. They put the B while pronouncing it, but it's actually wrong. So it's pronounced as comb. So imagine such word comes out in your question, in your JAMB question, and you don't know that certain letters are not articulated at the point of pronunciation. Obviously, you will be caught unawares in the exam hall, or you end up doing guesswork, which may give you the right answer or may not. But it's very important that we know that there are certain letters, certain sounds that are not pronounced at the point of articulation of a particular word. Now we have the vowel sounds. Obviously, there is no way questions will not be asked under the vowel sounds. For me, I do tell my students vowel sounds are quite tasking, all right, compared to the consonant sounds. The consonant sounds, you see them, you could actually identify them. But for vowel sounds, there are some vowel sounds that are twinned, right? You have the stressed and the unstressed. So your ability to identify where the stressed vowel sound is used and where it is not used is another dicey situation. But it's important that we go through words. When you're going through words every day, try to look up the word in the dictionary. Not just about looking up the word in the dictionary, check the transcription. Check the transcription of the word to know if it's a stressed word or an unstressed word. Then if you're able to get these two things, it will not actually be hard for you. Then again, under the vowel sound, sometimes we are just restricted to the monophthongs. The vowel sounds are classified into three. Yes, they're actually classified into three. You have the monophthongs, you have the diphthongs, and you have the triphthongs. The monophthongs are single vowel sounds. The thing about it is that it's classified into two. You have the stressed, which is called the long sound, and the unstressed, which is called the short sound. Now, some of these stressed and unstressed sounds are paired, all right? They are paired in a way where you have the short E sound, you have the long E sound, all right? So if you are able to decipher the difference in the two, it won't actually be hard for you when you see certain words that bear certain letters. I'm sure in one of my videos in oral English, I must have given a clear picture on how to differentiate the vowel stressed sound and the vowel unstressed sound. So we could actually go back to that video to watch it to get a better understanding. Likewise, the consonant sounds. So for the diphthongs, as the name implies, anything that has to do with two. So the diphthongs are a combination of two pure vowel sounds. They are 8 in number, unlike the monophthongs that are 12 in number. The diphthongs are 8 in number. Remember, I said it's a combination of two pure vowel sounds. As a matter of fact, diphthongs are called glides. If you have that at the back of your mind, it gives you the opportunity to know that when you see a sound that is two, twin, separately, not one that maybe it's joined by virtue of a stroke beside it. No, they are separate. You know that this can be seen in a single sound. Now I'm having two of single sounds being joined together. Then you have to glide it. Like you have the R sound and the E sound. So if I have the sound R-E, I know it's a diphthong because I will glide it from R to E, meaning eyes. So when the word eyes is pronounced, it's a diphthong that glides from a pure R sound to a pure E sound. And bringing them together makes it a diphthong. Remember, I said diphthongs, they glide from one pure vowel to another. All right, and lastly, you have your triphthongs. That's not what we're here for, but just a peripheral on the things you are expected to see in your JAM questions. So notice that you will see your vowel sounds, be it 2 questions, 3 questions. I think we have about 5 questions under the vowel sound. So imagine you abreast yourself well enough with the vowel sound, you're done with your 5 questions, you answer them appropriately and you don't have problems with that. Likewise, the consonants and the rhymes, all right? Then we'll move quickly to stress. Now, stress is usually hard. I wouldn't tell you it's not hard, and it's dicey. English is not like mathematics where I would let you know that once you use this formula, it gives you an answer. English is not like that. I could tell you that words with the verb words are stressed on the second syllable, while noun words are stressed on the first syllable, especially verb words and noun words of 2 syllables. I could tell you that, but you could actually check up a word in a dictionary, which is a verb word of 2 syllables, and it's not stressed on the second syllable. The question would be, is it that the dictionary has made a mistake, or this lady didn't know what she thought? That's why I have to bring it to the fore that stress can be dicey. So it demands you knowing a particular syllable that has a stressed sound. So once you know of a particular syllable with a very stressed sound, then there's every likelihood that that syllable with a stressed sound is the syllable that ought to be stressed. But also have it at the back of your mind that words with two syllables, verb words rather, of two syllables are usually stressed on the second syllable. Are there exceptions? Yes, there are exceptions that you would find when you are faced with a particular word and you are bothered about how to stress it. If you get confused in that state, ask yourself, the very syllable you want to stress, does it have a stressed vowel sound? If it has a stressed vowel sound, then give your stress or apply your stress on that very syllable that bears the stressed vowel sound. I want to believe that is understood. And what we just talked about now is stress under word stress. That's what we looked at. So for word stress, I've checked for some years and I realized they usually ask questions based on two-syllable words. So once you see two-syllable words, like I said, if they are adjectives, they're usually stressed on the first syllable. Likewise, the nouns are stressed on the first syllable. But if they are verbs, they are stressed on the second syllable. Remember I said there could be exceptions. So if I were you, there is nothing out of place since you're preparing for your exam, from nothing out of place, going an extra mile to go run through your dictionary, identifying some verb words of two syllables, identify where they are stressed, go for words of two syllables, identify where they are stressed, go for adjectives of two syllables, identify where they are stressed. Now I want to let you know something. While I was doing my research, I initially said that words of two syllables, adjective words, all right, of two syllables are stressed on the first syllable. Now, when they are compound words, you stress it on the second syllable. When they are compound words, they are stressed on the second syllable. That can be dicey, but trust me, if you get to go for deep study, you have to, obviously we need personal study, so you have to go for deep study to actually understand. Get your Oxford Dictionary. It will help you to identify the place of stress and how they are stressed. I want to believe that we know how to identify stress, because in one of my teachings, I have actually tackled that stress in your Oxford Dictionary is symbolized using a stroke up on the very syllable that bears the stress. There is usually a stroke, not the one down. The one down is called the secondary stress. We have the primary stress and the secondary stress. And for exam purposes, the primary stress is where we are centered on. So the primary stress is that stroke applied at the initial of a particular syllable, the first sound of on a particular syllable. That's what your stress is. So once you see that stroke, that's what stress is. It means that at the point of pronunciation, that very syllable that bears the stress mark should go up, while the next syllables will go on a lower tone. I want to believe that is understood. Now let's quickly delve into emphatic stress. Of all questions in oral English, if people do not have a perfect score for consonant sound, perfect score for vowel sound, perfect score for rhyme, perfect score for word stress, you always notice that when it comes to emphatic stress, there is always a perfect score. Ask me why. The reason is this: because it's very direct. Emphatic stress is one aspect of oral English that has a direct way of passing the information. And what's that direct way? When we talk about the word emphatic, we refer to emphasis. When emphasis is placed on a thing, we see it by virtue of making it bold. That means that very word must be written in capital letters all through. So when a particular word is written in capital letter, we are asked to get an option or identify an option that doesn't have that particular word in it. So any option without the stressed word is the answer. That's how easy emphatic stress is. And it's a question that comes out often. You must see them. As a matter of fact, all I've been stating all this while, the topics are questions, topics that will definitely come out in our JAM question. So emphatic stress is that easy. So by the time we'll go through some of the past questions, we will see them and we'll explain further in them. Then lastly, we have our idiomatic expressions. All right. Okay, I think that wouldn't be the last. I will take it at second to the last. Yes, or third to the last. Idiomatic expressions. It's important for us to know that idiomatic expressions are different from what we call phrasal verbs. All right. Phrasal verbs are a combination of verbs and prepositions, or what we call articles, participles. That's your phrasal verb, where you have a verb word like take, and you have a preposition like in, and the word becomes take in. That's a phrasal verb. So take in as a phrasal verb could mean to conceive or to accept. That's what take in means. So when we say that somebody has taken in, a woman has taken in, all right, it means she has conceived. When you say I can't take in all of this, that means I can't accept all of what you're proposing. So a phrasal verb can actually have, a particular phrasal verb can actually have more than one meaning to it. But when it comes to idioms, idioms have just one meaning. And that's why we have to get ourselves acquainted with certain idioms, contextual meanings of these idioms, so that when we see them, we are able to attempt them. Now, sometimes it could also mean that we are not conversant with all the idioms, but trust me, when you give a contextual clue, all right, to it, you will definitely get the answer. Then, last but not the least, are your synonyms and antonyms. We can't rule that out. Synonyms and antonyms, and that's where contextual analysis, contextual understanding is very paramount. There are words that you may not know that would come out. How then do I approach it? Give it a contextual analysis. Give it a contextual meaning. When you see a word and you don't know the meaning, try to understand the sentence before and after, and that would give you an inkling on what the answer could be. Remember, when we talk about synonyms, we are looking at words nearest in meaning, and when we talk about antonyms, we are looking at words opposite in meaning. It's possible for you to have two words that you know are synonyms to a particular word given. But remember, we said we are looking at context. So because we are considering context, you are going to choose the appropriate one. That's why they always give the instruction, choose the word most suitable. The possibility that we could have two words, three words that are suitable is there, but we're looking at the one that is most suitable. That's the superlative. So you must understand that knowing that two words can actually be the synonym of a particular word, serve as synonym to a particular word. It is also relevant for us to understand that these two words must not be chosen as answers. I must end up picking one, and that one is the one that matches in context to the one that has been given. So far, I want to believe that we've looked at these questions that are possibly going to come out. Yes, topics that will possibly come out in UTME exam, and we'll move further by looking at some questions and attempting them and giving reasons why these answers we've chosen are the correct answer. Bye for now. See you later.